Action. Hey, welcome, my math friends. This is section 3.2. This is the first problem from 3.2, and it's actually kind of challenging, even though it's the first problem. We're given this quadratic equation, right? This polynomial to a second degree, x squared minus 10x plus 32. And they want us to find the axis of symmetry in the vertex, because that's a parabola, right? You know that right away because you see the x squared. They want to know what transformation occurred from your base parabola, right? Your base parabola was just y equals x squared, which just right the origin. And then finally they want to know what is the minimum or maximum value of f. So like that vertex point, if you think of it, I drew a little generic parabola over here. So for example, this one, that would be the minimum value because it's the parabola is going up, and we need to know what that that y value is right here. That would tell us it. So, and then axis of symmetry, of course, you remember, is that line that goes right up and down, right, that splits the parabola in half. So when you're faced with a problem like this, I think the first tip I want you to think about is you don't want to try to like have a bunch of things memorized necessarily, or you're like, well, I have to do this. Understand, and then you can solve accordingly. So there's several ways. Like the first thing I would do is I'd look at this and I'd say, can I factor it? If I could factor this cleanly right away, then I could get, let's just, as an example, I'm not going to write this down because I don't want my chalkboard to get dirty. But let's just say I wrote it as, you know, x plus 4 and x minus 8. Let's just say that worked. It doesn't. But if it did, what would that tell me if I could factor it right away? Well, hopefully you remember, that would tell you the 2 points where the parabola crosses the x-axis. So if you could factor it, you could figure out these 2 points. Now that doesn't give you the vertex or the axis of symmetry directly, but you can figure it out because if the parabola crosses these 2 points, isn't the vertex always think about it, always going to be halfway? So you could figure out the halfway point between those 2 points, voila, you'd have your axis of symmetry. And remember, there is one thing you do want to memorize. The x coordinate is negative b over 2a. So that's one of the nice features if you have your parabola already written in this format, this general form with a, b, and c, then you could just do negative b over 2a and you could get the x value of the coordinate, which by the way would also give you the axis of symmetry, right? That is the halfway point. And then you can figure out the y value by just sticking in the x, which you guys have been doing. That's one way to do it. Now this does not factor, so what else can we do? Complete the square. Should always be able to work. So this is a little different because it doesn't equal 0. So watch how I do it. X squared minus 10x. I'm going to put like a little parenthesis around it. And then I'm going to take that plus 32 and I'm going to put it over here. All right, let me erase that out. So I just rewrote that equation with put a little space because I'm going to complete the square right here. So remember how to complete the square. I'll go over and review this. First, if there was a leading coefficient, which there isn't, it's just 1, you would divide everything out by that. Second, I'm going to bring a constant c to the other side, or in this case, I took the constant and I just slid it over to the right. Because there really is no other side, it doesn't equal 0 for this problem. And then find this, half of b, and then square it. So b is negative 10, half of negative 10 is negative 5. Square that, 25. Okay, and then you should be able to factor that directly. And what you want to remember is whatever half of b is, that is what's going to go here. That is the answer. So half of b is going to be negative 5 squared. Now here's the thing. How can you just arbitrarily add 25 to a problem? Isn't that going to just change the whole problem? Yes, it is. So you can't. You can't just add 25. You have to compensate. Check it out. By subtracting 25. Kind of weird. You add 25 and then you immediately subtract 25 off of it. So when you do that, the net effect is you really didn't do anything. You just added 0, but you did it skillfully. All right? And so by doing that, it allowed you to rewrite the equation like this. And what's negative 25 and positive 32? That's going to be 7. Now I have it in, which is called the vertex form. I have a times x minus h squared plus k. And what you guys are used to seeing now, because when you see a thing like this, a function like this, you usually can probably graph that very quickly, because you know how to, you can just take your base parabola, transfer it. So negative 5 is going to go to the right 5, plus 7 is going to go up 7. So that's your answer to B. It's going to go over, up. And real quick note on the vertex form. The general form is x minus h. Now it's kind of trippy, but don't overthink this. So if you look at it, this is x minus h. So my question to you is, what is h? Is it negative 5 or is it just 5? And since it's x minus h is just 5, is not negative 5. So h is 5. And then k, of course, is 7. So if you think of it this way, then it will tell you the vertex is right here, 5 and 7. 5 over, 7 up. So it's telling you that the vertex, that's why you're going to the right instead of the left. You know, all that time you just kind of memorize, well, if it's negative, you go the opposite direction. If it's positive, you go that. It's really because of that form, that x minus h. So h is 5. It's the negative part is part of like kind of the generic formula, or the format, if you want to think of it that way. So that is your vertex, 5 and 7, which is here. And then finally, the maximum or the minimum, of course, would be the k is 7, right? That would be it right here. So I don't want you to try to memorize, oh, well, h and k, and then whatever the k is, that's going to be the maximum and minimum. Don't memorize it, just draw it. Draw the picture out. You'll see it right there. So, and even memorizing this form, you really don't have to memorize it because you already know it. If once you get into a form like this, you already know what to do, how to graph that parabola. So that's question number 1. Hopefully that helps. Try it on your own now. Question number 2, if you still need help, there's another video I made without me standing up, but just doing it on the chalkboard, on the whiteboard. So you can watch that one as well. And then hopefully you get the hang of it pretty quick. So have fun with it and practice. Namaste.